Welcome to the GameDay Playbook, presented by FanFood, a discussion around how leaders are transforming the sports and live entertainment industry by leveraging technology to enhance the fan experience and operate game day more efficiently. I'm your host, Rob Cressy, and joining me today is Tinus Roux, CEO at FanCam. Tinus, super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
Can you give a quick overview on who you are and what you do?
Yes, Tinus Roux. The accent is due to the fact that I'm South African, currently living in the States. I've founded, along with my co-founders, a company called FanCam about 9 years ago. We did so because we figured out how to take really big pictures quickly and use that in the sports industry, basically to create content for fans. So to dumb it down, we were able to capture a whole crowd of 60 to 70,000 people at such high resolution that every fan can zoom in and find themselves. So that's then published. They share it out, and that drives a lot of engagement that makes teams and brands happy.
I dig the concept. That's something that back in the day on Sports Illustrated, they always had the faces in the crowd thing. And it seemed like such a natural, man, when will someone do this? Because that's the connectivity and the network of it all. And it's actually going to segue to what we're going to jam about today. Two things: crowd intelligence and the business of sport. And I want to start with the business of sport. And you and I first jammed last week about some of this stuff, and I really liked it. And I liked your thought process on the business of sport. So can you try and give us a little insight into your thoughts on what sports teams don't realize about the business of sport?
Well, I'll start off by saying that they understand a great deal about it. And it's in the past 5 years, you've seen a lot of growth in that understanding. But I find wherever I move, and our product has allowed us to move between different stakeholders, is that if there's one thing that's lacking, it's understanding the product. The front offices at teams, their job is often to sell tickets or merch or sponsorship, and that's one revenue stream. But you've got to realize that one of the biggest revenue streams at these teams is actually not generated from the fans, but from brands or media to get access to those fans. So if you understand that as a business model, that you can make your clients, so in a sports team, if you work the front office guys, their clients are often the fans. But if you work on the league level, the clients would be the networks, and the checks are often bigger than the network side. So you've got this thing where in this organization, sometimes you're trying to optimize to deliver a better experience to fans and then extract more money from them, crudely put. But then also in the business of being able to structure that community in a way that you can monetize access towards them. I think that's the part that sometimes goes missing within these organizational structures.
And do you feel like teams are doing, like, how would you rate how teams do at the community side of things? Because community building being one of the things that I specialize in, but I think that there's also, you can say you have a community versus is there an actual community? And I just look at myself as someone who grew up in Pittsburgh, and I love all things black and gold. I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I'm a diehard Penguins fan, and I grew up loving the Pirates. But guess what? For 22 of the last 25 seasons, the Pirates have had a losing record, and their ownership traditionally treats their fans like crap. And 2 years ago, I said, I've had enough. I'm no longer supporting the Pirates, and I was an active member of that community. So what do you think about the teams and how they think about community?
Well, the thing is, that's the great thing about sport. Community is often built in. It's almost as if the teams don't need to create it. They just need to allow it to flourish. So look at your example. You were a fan for 20 years without the team doing particularly well. So there's often this thing about if the team wins, we have a product. Now, obviously, if you win, a lot of bandwagon fans, sponsorship, winning is great. but it's not a business strategy in itself. I think community is. So the question is, I'd like to ask from a team point of view, why did this guy stick with this team despite everything for 20 years? What is that thing that made him buy the merch, come to the games? And often that thing is a sense of belonging. It's that community. And I think that part is undervalued, and understanding that people are tribal. Less so maybe today than 20 years ago. I'm not sure. Maybe the tribes are created quicker and dissipate faster, but they're tribal, and they don't support a specific sport based on his merits. Don't tell a fan that, but I'm a massive rugby fan, and when I came to the States, I thought, these guys playing with pads and helmets are, I mean, come on. If they just knew about rugby, they will not be watching the NFL. And I just realized over time, it's got nothing to do with that. It's not that one sport is better than the other. I support rugby. Well, I'm a rugby fan because, and I've said this often, it's because that's the game my dad took me to. And that's the thing we speak about over weekends, which creates, not to go too philosophical, but sport has the ability to create intimacy. There's a common denominator that you can start chatting to a stranger about something. And they both know the same moments. Oh, were you at that game? And now there's a connection. I think that part is often underplayed from a business planning point of view. Is saying, what are we doing to enhance community, or to strengthen community at least? And what are we doing that prevents it from flourishing?
Yeah, and I believe that is actually the challenge, because community is a long-term play, when by definition business is, what have you done for me lately? What can I do to get more people in the gates to sell more merchandise? Which is why the fan experience is so important. And as we look at brand loyalty, I believe that brand loyalty is starting to go in the opposite direction very quickly because of the number of choices that we have available. So even my own example, why would I continue to support the Pittsburgh Pirates when all they do is bring negativity into my life, or they don't give me back what I give them? On the flip side, why would I not just replace it with any number of a million of amazing things going on in the world now? So even if you think about the rise of esports right now, and how is Major League Baseball going to try and capture this younger demographic? If you were a younger kid right now, you would say, wait a second, what is more appealing to me, this fast, quick video game, as opposed to this long, drawn-out, boring thing of which, if my team isn't good, why would I give a crap? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think if the teams don't realize this, they're in for a big trouble, because the number of alternatives, you're no longer just competing against other teams. You're competing against everything.
No, you're absolutely right. I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old, all boys. And none of them follow rugby in the way that I did or do. My 12-year-old and I, we're playing Apex Legends. That's our thing now. He's just so much better than I am at it, which is frustrating for me and liberating to him. But that's what we talk about. New season 3 came out, and it's the same conversation I had with my dad about rugby. So back to that point, is you're exactly right, is that traditional sports, it's more challenging. It's not just build it and they will come. But we've got in traditional sports this massive opportunity that a lot of these structures, a lot of the culture, specifically in America, is just built around it. So yes, gaming is interesting. Esports is good, but Sundays and this time of the year, it's football, and all the channels supported and the news supported. It's there for the taking. You just need to be able to give people access to it and think about it from that community perspective. So definitely challenges out there, but it's also not just doom and gloom. It's built in. People like to. I wonder how many people at a baseball game are really baseball fans. It's because it's America's pastime. They want to be there. And that physical location, although we may think that we need less of it, it's built in our psychology, tribal and individual.
which I believe in order to help continue to build the brand loyalty and get more people paying attention to a brand, that brands need to be forward thinking. And this can be something that is a challenge. Is it a legacy brand, or the number of reasons why a brand is not forward thinking, because it is a very changing environment. And even looking with FanFood, who is changing the way that mobile ordering is done for in stadium and arena purchases. You're like, well, wait a second. Why would I wait in line for an hour for food when I'm at home? I just hit up DoorDash and they'll just deliver it for me and I can watch the entire game. And then all the myriad of other ways, how stadiums, some have Wi-Fi, some have none. And you're like, how is it possible I live in a un-Wi-Fi stadium world? So let's talk about now crowd intelligence, the second part of things, because this was very interesting to me and it's very forward thinking. So can you describe a little bit more about crowd intelligence?
Yeah, and it's a good segue. Maybe let me just take a step back and link onto what you said there. I fully agree. We need to make sure that the stadium experience needs to be competitive. There needs to be Wi-Fi. You need to be able to access your food. Everything needs to be clean. You need to be able to hear what's going on. I take those as givens. My job is to look ahead. I say, let's assume technology solves those things. What is the next thing? So when I say community and all these things, it doesn't mean there shouldn't be Wi-Fi. There should. And just, I really like your comment in terms of sponsors being forward thinking. The example, be careful here, but let's take the beer industry. There's often this tug of war within sports. Are we going to sponsor? Who's going to be the alcohol provider? And it's sometimes contentious. If I was a team, maybe this is too bold and unrealistic, but I would say, look, guys, we gather these 50,000 folks together every Saturday or every Sunday in a place where they want to enjoy your product. If we're not there in 5 years from now, and everyone's at home playing games, how are you going to find your clients? How are you going to sell your product? Please help us maintain this community. And if you understand that it's a symbiotic relationships, then I think you'll find sponsors realizing we need to do activations that enhance community, because the stronger this community, the easier for us to communicate within it and to monetize our sponsorship. So with that as a background, I think I know there's very little statistical data on the composition and behavior of crowds. And after 5 or 6 years of looking at a lot of pictures of a lot of fans, because we took a lot, I realized that maybe within our imagery, maybe we can pull some data out of that. And that's exactly what we did. So we built something called Crowd IQ. And what it does is we use computer vision to analyze the pictures and start by delivering demographic information. So we can tell a team, right, well, first off, were there people in their seats? So at this timestamp, so many people at the seats, this timestamp, you start creating a bit of a curve. So that's the one piece of data we call crowd flow. Second one is, what's the demographic composition? So what's a male-female split? Does it change with the weather? How many millennials in the building? Does it change if I drop or increase the prices, and to what extent? So you can start understanding how this crowd operates and how it reacts specifically to changes in variables, because that's what you want to do. Because if you do that, you can start doing predictive analysis and saying, right, this is the community I want to create that community, and this is the gap between where we are and where we want to go. These are the things I need to do. I've gone into a tangent. I get excited about these things.
But it makes complete sense, because let's keep this going with the community and activation side of things. Because if you're smart, you're like, all right, this is the demographic that we want. And you're like, well, how does our marketing campaign work right now? And you're like, well, let's just look at the crowd intelligence and say, are we getting more? Is the crowd or the community that we're building more of what we want? If not, something is not resonating. So for me, I'm going to start looking at brand voice. I'm going to start looking at engagement, because there's going to be a myriad of metrics on any marketing or community-driven campaign that says, all right, we're not doing something good if we are not seeing more of what we want congregating based on what we're putting out there.
Exactly. And then the first thing there is to if you look at all the fear-mongering in sport, and you look at a lot of the discussion around MLB numbers now, it's a drop, but you still have millions of people coming together in the same place. And we all know that we haven't really dug into how to monetize that group better. So I would take and this is my advice to folks in MLB, is say, take a step back and say, this is what we have. We have X million people coming together every at these locations. We know their frame of mind. It's wonderful for sponsors. I mean, where else in this world where fragmentation is growing, and where ad blockers, we cannot choose what ads we want. The venue experience and people watching that game is one of the few places where it's a natural marriage. So I would say, analyze a crowd as saying, what is a crowd? What is a fan base? It gives us long-term growth and stability. What does it look like? How many young people are in there? What's the male-female split? What does their experience look like? Does there need to be Wi-Fi, these things? And how do we tweak those things? And build that into our conversations with brands and saying, I know you want this. I know you want your banner everywhere, but if we do it this way, then in 2 years from now, we're going to have half the people. And so let's subsidize tickets. Let's sponsor the Wi-Fi. Let's look at the things that create community and align your activations with that.
I dig it. And I'm someone, my background's in digital advertising sales. So I have a unique perspective on, let's call it, cookies and targeting than most people will, because I'm like, of course I would much rather see a relevant ad than some garbage thing that has nothing to do with what I'm doing. But I get all privacy and data and all that stuff. But for me, I'm not a fear-based person. I'm more of I got a million other things to worry about. If I say the word tacos and all of a sudden a taco ad pops up, guess what? Congratulations. I probably wouldn't, because I get some tacos. But I see this as the next sort of extension of this, because can you give the people what they want? And oftentimes, we'll just have them fill out a survey. It's like, you have to make this as easy as possible on the people. And the easiest way to make it easy on the people is to not have them have to fill out a survey that doesn't do anything for them. Instead, you're like, listen, we're going to use technology to understand your behavior to make this better for you and the sponsors. Everyone wins.
No, that's 100%, because often with something like sport, which is cultural, people don't know why they're fans. I mean, and you can ask a fan, why are you a fan of the Steelers? They're the best team, so it really isn't why you're a fan, because that's the same answer that 30 other fans of the other NFL teams say, and it can't all be true. So a survey is not the best way to get why people how you can't use a survey. There's limited value to a survey in predicting behavior. The best way to predict behavior is to measure it. Say, right. Now, at this game, we didn't play any ads on the big screen. How many more people looked up their phones? And use your Wi-Fi information to see which kind of sites did they visit. Now, there's a balance there between, and this is where it becomes, it's important not to go creepy on this and go, oh, big brother. It really isn't about individual information. It's about aggregate information. Saying, look, during the halftime break, 24% of the fans at Heinz Field went onto Twitter, and 28% went onto Facebook. No team really cares about exactly what you were doing there. So that type of data could be really valuable in understanding how to tweak this experience in a way that creates a better community.
Yeah, and for me, it comes down to community and trust, because within a community, if you trust brands, whether that's the team or the sponsors or anything, then you're like, well, of course I'll allow you to do that. But when that trust is broken, that's the challenge. And I think that's what a lot of teams and brands are facing, especially in this buy what I'm selling, always in your face nature.
That's done. That ship has hit the iceberg and it's going down. It's
of course, but as the consumer of things, you still see it and you're like, how is this still an ad? And we'll sort of end on this. I mean, I get the place, but it's also, that's what makes me so encouraging about the community driven side of things, is because if you can bring in and bridge the element of trust between the brand and the team that you love in that community, we should be there with open arms saying, thank you for the opportunity to consume this brand because you're making my experience better.
That's it. And I think that's a perspective I'll finish on, is that yes, sports, it's a disruptive time for sports, but not because of sports, because it's a disruptive time in the whole world. And if you could choose between being a team owner in the States and being a newspaper owner, you want to be a team owner. It is still a really strong position. And what I would do if I'm in a team's position now is spend my energy on understanding my fans, not making assumptions on them, because it's also a moving target. What you're understanding with your fans now is going to be different in 5 years from now. You need to track this, and there are different ways to do that. Be responsible about how you gather that information. It needs to be there needs to be a benefit to the fans, but that's possible. We just need to be principled about it, and then articulate, improve your product, and go sit with your sponsors and say, look, this is what we want to achieve. We want your billboard that's up there in 5 years from now, and we want eyes on that thing. And these are the things we need to do, and we can generate value in the process. And that's a really exciting prospect, having those conversations and breaking some of the wastage on nonsense metrics and stuff like that. So,
Tinus, I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoy your mindset and philosophies and the way you're so community driven and fan focused. Where can everybody connect with you?
I'm on Twitter once in a while, if you don't mind. Specifically now with the Rugby World Cup going on, you may get some rugby tweets there. but Twitter and LinkedIn, and because of my unique name, I'm relatively easy to find. So it's Tinus Leroux, and TinusLeroux, on both Twitter, and if you search for that in LinkedIn, there aren't many of us.
And as always, I would love to hear from you about this episode. What's top of mind for me right now is brand loyalty with sports. Let me hear about your brand loyalty. Do you feel like you love your teams as much now as you always have? Or is there someone or something fighting for that attention? You can hit up FanFood on Twitter at FanFoodOnDemand, on Instagram at FanFoodApp, or on LinkedIn. And as always, you can hit me up on all social media platforms at Rob Cressy.